Hi, this is Susie with CPT here for a quick Tax E tutorial today. If you want to use Tax E, you have to be in your tax billing system on any um, screen, and you type in Tax E and hit enter, and it pulls up our tax estimate option. If you are between T&Ts and tax statements, it's going to ask you if you wish to use your proposed tax rates. If you say yes, it's going to use the tax rates that are in your current file. And if you say no, it's going to use the rates from your previous year's tax statements. So I'm going to say no, and we'll compare apples to apples, what was on our tax statement last spring and what would have been if this parcel had the changes that we're going to make. The next thing that you need to do is put in your parcel and record number down here and decide if you wanted to consider the MP group. So you put in the parcel number and the record number. It goes by parcel and record. When you're doing consider MP parcels, what you want to think about is whether this parcel is going to be changing hands. So if a owner comes in and says, what if I change this to be something, but it's going to be like that same owner still grouped with the same parcels, you would say, yes, we want to consider the MP group. But if somebody comes in and says, hey, what if I bought this parcel and now it's owned by me, then you want to say, no, you're no longer considering the parcels that it's currently connected to, because in this scenario, it would be bought by a new owner, that's the scenario that I'm doing. So I'm going to say, no, we're not going to consider the MP parcels because this parcel is being purchased. Then it'll pull up and it'll say, here are the values on the 2028 taxes. Here are your current values. If you want to do apples to apples, you can, change these values and input whatever you want. Or you can just leave it the way it is if you want to give them like a better estimate of what it would be for their 2026 taxes. It's really up to you how you do that. What the most common change is this classification rate and homestead code. For these classification rates and homestead codes, you need to look at our tax billing system assessment codes booklet. On page 2, we talk about the homestead codes. Our parcel is currently a 7. It's a disabled vet. And in this scenario, somebody's going to say, I wouldn't have a vet homestead. I would just have a normal homestead, which would be a type 1. If you're like an auditor or a recorder and somebody comes and says this and you don't know what homestead code you would use, you can always go talk to someone in your assessor's office to figure out what is appropriate here. The other thing is the assessment codes. In this scenario, would the assessment code change? Usually the assessment code is not going to change, but there might be some scenarios where the assessment code would change, and those are in this booklet too. But again, this is more of an assessor thing, and so if you are not in the assessor's office and you're wondering if the assessment code's changed, you just have to go ask your assessor what would be done in this scenario. So for our scenario, somebody's saying, this is currently a disabled vet parcel, a type 7. What if it was homesteaded? What if it was not homesteaded? You can see because it's a type 7, the exclusion is pulling out all the value and there will be no tax on this parcel. If it was going to be non-homesteaded, it would be a 0. This one has to do with the type 7, so we can just clear that out. But this would be a type 0, which would be non-homesteaded. And once I have this the way I want it, I'm going to press F5 to calculate taxes, and it'll show me here's what it was in 2025, and here's what the current estimate would be given its non-homesteaded status. You can also say like, well, what if it was homesteaded at a type 1 homestead code, and then recalc, and then you would have your normal homestead exclusion, and then here's what the taxes would be. So you can walk somebody through this on the phone. If they're there, you can hit F6 to generate a PDF, which if your X drive is mapped, it will pull up a PDF like this. You can print it or email it to be able to share with them so that they have the like, if it was this situation, this is what it looks like the tax would be for us. This screen is going to stay at X system until you close out that PDF and the system sees that it's closed out, and then it will go back to your Tax E screen. There's the basics of Tax E, and you can start over The only thing we did not do here is to do, you can see details. So if we do this, and if I hit F8 to see detail, you can kind of see the details of like where that tax is coming from if they wonder it. That's it for Tax E. If you have a situation that's too complicated for this Tax E function, we do have an option both in your assessor's menu and your auditor's menu. That's your work files. They're separate sets of work files. We do have a guide that would walk you through those work files where you can pull in like multiple parcels. You can change more things than you can change in Tax E. You can look at cross-county values and MP groups and things like that. So reach out to us if that's what you want.